Hi, everybody. It's Crazy again for another week. This is number 11. This week, I didn't get a lot done in coding because of the fact that life events happen and, yeah, things happen, right? So, I did get actually into the book, which is, let me get to it. This book right here, Invent Your Own Computer Games with Python. Been working at it for a little while since episode 1 and started off with trying to get a better knowledge of how Python would work, and I got into Pygame. Yep, I did a little bit of simple animations using Pygame, and doing some collisions using Pygame. Now, I can go into that, but I'm just gonna show some quickies on it because don't want to get too far into it. Um, kick that on. This is the first one. It was animation, and if I hit that, look, I got little boxes dancing around on my screen. Yay! So, it's an accomplishment when you finish something, so it was kind of neat to finish these because it gives you a little bit more accomplishment that you've done it. What my problem was is before I was having hard times understanding what this means. Now, this is a tuple. Okay? I always thought these were lists. Believe it or not, I'm looking at it and going, that's a list. Okay. So that, and that it would equal the color white, right? Well, that tuple, tuple crazy, equals white, not a list. This is a list, okay? So it's got the little hard brackets, the corner brackets, they call them. And that's what a list is. And you can actually put an entire dictionary in a list. So a list of dictionaries. Didn't quite catch that, and now I understand what lib loading and all that meant. What its base feature is, which kind of helps me out later on trying to figure out stuff. But my astounding thing on this was, oh my god, that's a tuple, and all this time I was looking at it as a list. So, half my dilemma solved. And one more neat little thing, and I don't know if I showed this on my last video or not, but if I comment this out, this is the background color, you would think that it would put them all in there, and just give you a black background, right? Mm-mm. Nope. It continues on. That animation no longer is an animation because now you see that it's moving, but it's showing it as as like kind of like crayon marks going across across the screen. So I didn't realize this either. I didn't realize that you would actually have to have a background. Where did I put it? There you go. A background that goes through as the game loop runs because of the fact that you know it's gotta clear the screen. It's like doing this, okay? As you push your hand across, you're actually deleting, my face, you know, each time. So you're literally clearing the deck, clearing your slate each time at each iteration. And being that it, goes 4 times, yeah, you know, it moves 4 pixels at a time. So every fourth pixel, it throws a big old white screen up. And then it does 4 more pixels and it throws a white screen up. So that makes it look exactly like this, like it's animating. And everybody remembers that little book, and you just put little stick figure in there and make them do stuff. I never caught that concept. I understood the concept. I understood how it works, but I never could grasp it that just throwing them together, you're going so fast that you can't see. So I'm figuring they're passing by as fast. So these are moving across the screen, but it's actually doing the same thing as that other one was doing just a second ago. That it was just blurred, because it kept going. It had nothing as a shutter effect. Okay, this white background is a shutter effect, and I did not know this. So you learn something new. So today, this week I learned that, and so as I got towards the end of the code, and I, did I uncomment that? Yeah, okay. So now I got that one working, and I felt accomplished that I did that. And I'm like, oh, now I'm finally getting into some graphics, Pygame graphics, stuff like that. So I continued on to collision detection. Collision detection is pretty fun. I mean, I don't like it more than I like AI. I think AI is pretty neat. And my last video, I was going on about the AI idea, and I can see where all these can be worked in together. But again, learning that is kind of a little bit of a little bit of a hard thing for me. So I'm still going. This one was fun because of the fact that you get a little player, which is your little black guy here. He can move with either the arrow keys or the WSAD keys. Okay, so as he runs around, he gets to eat these little green blocks. Okay, look at that. He can eat every single one of these blocks. So the neat thing about it is that each one of these blocks reappears. You can actually put blocks in if you hit the mouse button, which I thought was pretty cool. And if you hit the X, he basically pops around the thing in random spots. So he respawns at different locations. So this is basically just a simple, simple game. Eat the dots. Now some people say, "Oh, why don't you have it to where you can follow it with the mouse?" You can. The mouse actually is set to where it can put more food down, so it's kind of neat. So I was working on that. That was it, and it was like, okay, I got all the code in, and I know there's a better way to do all this. Okay, so bear with me. I understand that this will probably be in another video, but uh, I know there's a better way, and I believe it's just the key up instead of the key down and key up. You don't really need them unless you want them to, stop on a dime. You would use the key down and key up if you want them to stop. You move left, stop. Move right, stop. A key up is whenever your character, you let go of the key, it says, okay, it goes in that direction. And it keeps going in that direction until you tell it to stop. I've done that. I actually had that on my GTA Z game when I first started it until I implemented the mouse movement instead. But I'm learning new stuff. I've got this one, down, and I'm still going through it. I'm on to page number 290, and if I minimize that and type 290 up here, excuse me, this is where I'm at right now. Actually, it's 295 because I wrote 295 up there because I actually went further, but I wanted to go back to 290. So this is actually where I was at, and I was looking at the keys, and I was like, yeah, I could probably do this a little bit better, to where it's not so, code heavy. you know, there's a lot of what they call one-liners, and one-liners, are awesome, but I have no clue on how to do them, and believe it or not, I don't want to get that advanced with it yet. I want to stick to the basis stuff first, and then once I get everything figured out, then I'm going to take that next step, and I will do one-liners and try to figure out how they work. And but the main focus was I'm actually into Pygame now. Instead of just doing text-based games, I'm actually working in Pygame. So, with that, that was about all I got to do this past week because of the fact that, like I said, life events happened. With that, I'm going to bring up a couple of other things that I've been doing this, or that I checked about, and I actually checked this out yesterday and realized, oh my god, and yeah, it's not what you think. It's Blender. Haha, you thought I was going to say the other one, didn't you? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so Blender 2.93 is out. Yay! I like it when they come out with a newer Blender because that's just wonderful. It's that means that they're still going forward with it and they're not like stagnant. And when it stays that way for like so long, it's like you're like, they're gonna come up with anything, and they're supposed to be doing like Vulkan and stuff like that. But the main reason why I brought this one up is because I had a couple friends that I talked to, and they were like, I tried doing this with Blender, and I had to use cycles, and if I went over to UPBGE and did it in cycles, it had like so many frames and yada yada yada, and I had this problem. Let me fix this problem, okay? And what a lot of people aren't realizing is that it if you're using Blender 2.93, which most people are using 2.92 because, They haven't realized this, so here goes your sign. It's right there. Okay, 2.93. UPBGE is built on the experimental version. Okay, and you're like, what do you mean by experimental version? Well, there's 3 of them. There's 2.83.16, which is a candidate. Okay, and if you look at it, you can tell basically what they are. This one's right here's the next step in 2.93, which will probably technically be 2.94. This right here was probably one of the original ones that they wanted to go a different route with, and they went this way, and some people liked it, and they're like, I want to keep this one. So you can keep the experimental. You can still build all kinds of stuff off of with Blender. Okay, but what UPBGE is built on is 0.3.0 that is built on Blender 3.0, the experimental alpha version. Okay, so if you're having an issue with Blender versus UPBGE, check your versions so that way you know you got the same ones. Don't use 2.93 and then test it with UPBGE 0.3.0 because it's based off of 3.0 alpha. Okay, so check that out before you do that. Like I said, I try to keep up with the newest versions, but I don't really have the Blender 3.0 alpha because of the fact that that's an experimental thing for me, and it's like, meh, I'm not into cycles and all that stuff in Blender, so I'm more so into messing around with, nodes and stuff like that with a BGE. But same basis is what it's built on because a BGE is built on Blender, okay? And it doesn't need to be exported. It doesn't need to have any of that done. And all those people who think that UPBGE is dying or UPBGE is stagnant or UPBGE died with the Blender game engine, no, it has not, folks. I tell you right now, and I will preach this until they stop making it. The only thing that has stopped being done, and this is what they said in the UPBGE server, is that the 0.2.5b was going to be the last version for the old 2.79b Blender version. Okay, that's for the old schoolers who enjoy that old UI and want to continue using that UI. You could still build awesome games with 2.5b, okay, or 0.2.5b. But for future sake, you want to get ahead of that big curve, because if you're building a game in good old 2.79 Blender, you're behind the times. You're behind that 8 ball, and most people are got newer computers. They've got the 3080 graphics cards now, and the older version is going to look pixelated. It's not going to look good quality. It's not going to be that eye-popping, graphic that you see on your screen because you're using 2.79. Okay? Step up to 0.3.0, folks. I mean, it's the next step up, and look, they update it all the time. That one was done 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Okay? So it's not stagnant. Okay? It's not dead. And it's well alive and kicking. So if you think that UPBGE can't do games, jump on their server. I'll have the link in the description. Jump on their server. See the awesomeness that is actually coming out with UPBGE. Okay, I know a lot of people were discouraged and because they went from 2.79 to 2.8, and people did not like the UI. They hated it. I get that. I was kind of one of them people at first, but then I got thinking, well, with future comes change. The old Nokia. Come on, remember that? Anybody remember that big old brick phone that people used to hold to their ear? Yeah, you thought you were cool holding that doggone brick. Well, cell phones have progressed a lot further than that, y'all. Okay, a lot further. And if people said, "Well, I want the old brick phone back instead of this Galaxy, what was it, Galaxy 21 now, or an iPhone?" I don't mention iPhone. Sorry, I'm an Android fan, so if you're not an Android fan, I'm sorry. If you have an iPhone, I'm sorry. Uh, but the newer things actually run better and run quicker. You can't. I mean, I'm nostalgic for the old computer ways. I mean, I used to build 286s, 486s, 386s, and running on a Pentium 1 chip. Yeah. Anybody remember those? Yeah, if you remember that, then you remember the struggle. Okay. Yeah, you could put just about any peripheral you want in there, and it worked. You know, newer computers have better capabilities. They're designed better. Yeah, Windows 10, people don't like it, but when I started out with Windows 3.1, Windows 10 is completely difference between night and day, guys. Okay, so step forward. Jump on into UPBGE 0.3.0. Jump in there, check it out. You know, I know it takes a little bit of getting used to. It actually takes a lot of getting used to because you're used to the older way, and I still am used to the older way. There is some keyboard shortcuts that I hit and nothing happens, and I go, and I'm constantly. I mean, come come on, I know this works. You know, and it doesn't. So, you got to get used to newer things. When I got my new, when I traded out my old Nokia for a flip phone, it was a complete different experience. So you have to get used to it, and when you get used to it, you become proficient at it. And then when you become proficient at it, you can do just about anything you did in the old one, but better. Okay? There's new features. There's new things being added all the time. So if you're not into UPG and you're trying to figure out how to get a game going and you don't want to use Unity, you don't want to do Unreal, you want something that's good, UPGE is the way to go. No exporting, guys. No exporting. Okay? So with that being said, going to go ahead and end it here. I probably ran a little bit long on this one because I did have a bunch of stuff I wanted to do, but I actually shortened this up. This has probably been a 50-minute to a 2-hour video, and I don't want to curse y'all with that because, yeah, crazy talking for 2 hours. Yeah, you have enough of me for about 10, 20 minutes tops. I'm going to leave it here. So until next time, we'll see you then.